Let me ask you something. When is the last time a first-person shooter actually surprised you? Not just entertained you, not just gave you another round of dopamine from a familiar kill streak. I mean, truly surprised you. Gave you a mechanic or a moment or a match that made you pause and think, wait, why hasn't anyone done this before?
Why? Why?
Go ahead, I'll wait. Because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And if I'm being honest, it's hard to come up with maybe a handful of FPS games. Most FPS games today don't innovate, they simply iterate. They color inside the lines, they copy what works, slap on a battle pass, and pray for player retention. But every now and then, there's a game that breaks the mold. One game that dares to stand outside the box and say, let's blow a hole in the ceiling, literally.
Stop it. Get some help.
That game, most recently for me, is and continues to be The Finals. The Finals is a shooter where the map is just as much of a weapon as your loadout, where your team can win not because you had better aim, but because you had better strategy. And all because you dropped a building on someone and stole their cash mid-fight. It's movement, destruction, and chaos, and creativity coming together in ways that no other shooter even attempts. When The Finals dropped, it felt like a breath of fresh air in a genre that has been choking on its own recycled ideas for years. The trailers were slick, the buzz was real, the betas were chaotic and beautiful, and for a moment it felt like we were witnessing something rare. A big budget FPS with actual ambition. And then, silence. The player numbers dipped, the YouTube videos slowed, the Twitch clips stopped flooding your feed. I mean, seriously, it seems like when The Finals first came out, I saw it everywhere on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and now, nothing. Crickets. But it didn't crash, it didn't burn. There was no massive meltdown, no scandal, no developer drama. It just kind of faded, quietly. And that's where this story starts. Because I don't think The Finals failed. And actually, I think The Finals is the best FPS game that you should be playing right now.
Are you serious right now, bro?
This is a game that dared to be different, that did almost everything right, that carved out its own identity in a sea of sameness, and still somehow got left behind. Today, we're going to unravel that story, what The Finals tried to do, where it stumbled, what it got right, what it got wrong, the changes that Embark has made, and why I think you should be playing this masterpiece of a shooter today. Let's start at the beginning. Not with the drop, not with metas, but with a feeling. That rare feeling when you boot up a game and know instantly this isn't like the others. Because The Finals doesn't just play different, it feels different. It wasn't just another FPS, it was a game that asked bold questions. What if destruction wasn't just cosmetic? What if verticality wasn't just a way to traverse, but a usable tool? What if team play actually mattered more than your KD did? The Finals is the debut title from Embark Studios, a dev team that is stacked with ex-DICE veterans. Yeah, those DICE veterans. The minds behind the best Battlefield games from Bad Company to Battlefield 4, which actually explains a lot. The mayhem, the spectacle, the obsession with blowing stuff up.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
But instead of revisiting old glory, they pushed forward. They took the DNA of large-scale destruction and injected it into something completely fresh. This wasn't just Battlefield in a hoodie. The Finals isn't about nostalgia or gimmicks. It's about execution, precision, chaos with purpose. The core experience revolves around 3v3v3v3 multiplayer, 4 teams, 1 fully destructible map, and a whole lot of different ways to win. It's really hard to fit The Finals into a traditional FPS mold or call it like one particular type of game. It's not really a hero shooter, nor is it a battle royale or an extraction shooter. The closest thing to it is probably like a movement shooter, but truly, at least to me, it's created a subgenre of its own. The primary game mode called Cash Out is unlike anything I've played before or since. Picture this, 4 teams race to open vaults, they grab cash boxes and upload money at extraction points, all while dodging bullets, collapsing buildings, and surprise grapples from across the map. Kills, I mean, sure they help, but they're secondary. The real money is in the objectives. That means that your cracked aim doesn't matter if you forget to play the damn game mode.
Nice.
You can win through strategy, clever movement, or pure chaos. You steal a cash box with 10 seconds left, and that's a $15,000 swing. That is literally game winning. It's the kind of mechanic that fuels endorphins and just makes my brain melt.
Wow.
And that's what The Finals delivers, adrenaline in waves. The destruction is top tier. Sure, Battlefield had buildings crumble, and Siege let you shoot through drywall sometimes, but this is architectural warfare. Entire floors collapse, vault sites become death traps, no cover is permanent, and the map evolves with the match. One of my favorite opening lines from the announcers is when a match starts and they say, "What a perfect arena this is. I wonder how long that will last." And the answer is not long. The movement, slick and rewarding with a fairly high skill ceiling, it rewards creativity. You can dodge and weave through every single building, through windows and doors, zip lines and platforms. It feels like the finals took a page out of Mirror's Edge, and the movement benefits from that. I also generally play the light class, which offers options to equip dashes and grappling hooks. The amount of times that I've juked dudes out of their shoes while playing light makes me tingle inside. Speaking of light, what does that actually mean? Well, this game doesn't have heroes, but it features 3 distinct classes that greatly alter how you're going to play the game and your role within the team dynamic. The light classes are your glass cannons, your fraggers, guns that pack a punch but also have the lowest health pool at just 150. They will have SMGs, shotguns, a sniper, and melee options with a whole host of offensive-minded gadgets. The medium is your Swiss Army knife. They can set turrets, heal enemies, and deal a good amount of damage from medium to close range with their ARs. I usually think this is the best starting point for new players because medium is generally the, pretty much do everything okay class. And then the heavy is your tank, your big mama, the LMGs, the RPGs, the dome shield, and lots of destruction. This was the first class that I really dove into and learned. They are really, really good for blowing stuff up, and they're really good for holding and defending cash boxes and platforms. Now in the finals, no 2 matches feels the same, no 2 fights play out identically, and that level of unpredictability is so rare in a game. Even the style of this game is purposeful. The finals leans into this fictional in-universe game show aesthetic. Bright lights, confetti, sponsorships, the spectacle is the point. The universe of the finals is sort of a play on what it would look like if esports was a massive international sport, like something the size of football. The announcers, maps, and overall aesthetic of the game leans into this concept of being the world's largest game show. It feels like what esports should have evolved into instead of whatever the CDL League thinks it is. This background allows for a ton of flexibility in the game's cosmetics. In a game show world, literally anything goes. Any add-on, any skin can be added to the game, and as long as it fits stylistically, it fits the game's world without being immersion breaking. This is in stark contrast to a game like Call of Duty that decided, you know what, forget our military aesthetic roots, let's add Homelander and Nicki Minaj to the game. If you can't tell, I really hate that Call of Duty went down that path with their cosmetics. Which, by the way, the cosmetics in the finals are some of the highest quality I've ever seen in a video game. Every single item for sale in the store kicks the shit out of almost every single other game's cosmetics. They actually feel handcrafted and like someone actually cared to put the time into making them unique. My all-time favorite is there's a skin for the M11 in the AKM that prints a receipt when you kill someone, and the receipt actually has the username on it of the person you just killed. And what blows my mind is that this game exists in a space where innovation usually goes to die. Big modern AAA shooters, they generally don't take any risks. It's a lot of the same reskin mechanics and ideas that are slightly tweaked for the new release. Publishers tend to just greenlight what worked last fiscal year, slap on the battle pass,
Uh-oh, Richard! Oh, wow!
add a Dragon AR skin, and you're done. But the finals showed up, gave everyone the middle finger, and said, here's something different. And I think some people actually noticed that. The first time you drop in and vault through a skylight and collapse a roof onto enemies before zipping out with the cash box, you feel something. That feeling of, holy shit, did that just happen?
What?
And that's priceless. And it's almost entirely extinct in today's FPS landscape. Because the core of the finals is about the moments in the game. It's not about grind, it's not about unlock trees, not metrics or daily quests, it's about moments. It gives you a ton of tools and says, go make chaos, and for a while the player base did. Now I'm sure you're aware that the finals did not launch like some obscure indie gem that slowly climbed the ranks. No, this game absolutely exploded out of the gate. The trailers were electric, the beta was jam-packed with players, Twitch was flooded with streamers showcasing wild plays, last-second steals, and full building collapses that turned the tide of matches in a blink. For a few beautiful weeks, it felt like everyone was talking about this game. There were TikToks, YouTube Shorts, best of beta montages, Reddit threads breaking down loadouts and meta plays, Discord servers with channels like C4 plus canister equals win, and if you weren't playing it yet yourself, you were probably watching someone who was. Even if you fully didn't understand the game modes that were being played, it just looked so damn cool. The finals had the kind of launch buzz most games only dream of. Why? Because it gave us something different, and it didn't cost a dime. No upfront price, no $70 gamble, just download and go. And the gameplay, it delivered. With over 200,000 peak players, the first few weeks were a highlight reel. Everyone was discovering new gadgets, new vault routes, new ways to break the map. Movement guides were popping off on YouTube, people were comparing class builds, tier lists were forming, the game started to have a meta, but you didn't feel like it was solved just yet. It felt alive and it felt like it was something new. The community showed up, ready to grind, experiment, and flex. It even briefly cracked the top Steam charts, and considering the competition, that's really hard to do. The hype was so real, in fact, that some of the people that were playing it were calling Finals the next best thing in FPS games. But that kind of high and that kind of visibility, it's sort of a double-edged sword. Because when a game launches with that much noise, the moment it goes quiet, everyone will notice. And that's exactly what happened next. The noise sort of just stopped. Not overnight, and not dramatically, just a slow fade. Like someone turned the volume down on the hype. Player numbers dipped, content creators have moved on, and suddenly that hot new FPS wasn't on your YouTube front page anymore. It wasn't topping Twitch categories. It wasn't really anywhere. And that's where we find the real mystery. The Finals didn't blow it. It didn't botch the landing. It didn't get exposed as this buggy mess or a scammy cash grab. It just kind of lost the attention it had worked so hard to cultivate. And there's numerous reasons as to why this happened. So we have to start asking questions. For as good of a game as the Finals was and is, what went wrong? Why didn't the momentum last? And most importantly, can it come back? And I would hazard to say that I think it can. So how does a game this good, this smooth, this creative, this damn fun, go from the most exciting shooter drop in years to, oh yeah, that game exists in about 6 months? Well, let's talk about some of the cracks, because they didn't start big, they didn't start obvious, but once you saw them, you really couldn't unsee them.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP!
Let's start with the meta. When the Finals launched, it gave you a massive sandbox of tools, explosives, gadgets, and class abilities, and basically just said, go nuts. And we did. But then we noticed that some people were going way more nuts than others. Invisibility glitches were ubiquitous, C4 barrel nuke strats were everywhere, and once people figured out how to stack those builds together and what guns and gadgets were best, it didn't matter how creative or tactical you were trying to be. If you weren't running the best loadouts, you were probably content for the kill feed. And this is the downside of true sandbox freedom, and really the downside of most competitive PvP games, is the meta wasn't just imbalanced, it was unfun to fight against. You essentially had to use a cheese build to beat other players' cheese builds.
Are you serious right now, bro?
And these builds weren't like intentionally put together by Embark at all. It was just the culmination of players experimenting with how gadgets work together and then abusing it. Well, that didn't much matter when Barry the Heavy could just sprint into the room, throw down the explosive barrel, detonate it with C4, and wipe your entire squad. Ideally, a balanced game would lead to every single option being at a minimum somewhat viable and usable. Now, obviously, that's very hard to do. And to Embark's credit, they started patching. They did listen. It took them a while to get the balancing right. I personally think the way the Finals is now in Season 6 is the most balanced it has ever been, and it's actually really fun. But then there's progression problems, and outside of the moment-to-moment chaos, the Finals didn't really give you a reason to log back in. There were no ranked games at launch, no meaningful unlock paths outside of cosmetics, and don't get me wrong, the cosmetics are sick, but if you're not already hooked on the gameplay, then there wasn't much else keeping you on the line. I still think the game's progression's pretty bad, mainly because there's multiple different leveling systems and they're all hidden 3 layers deep in different menus to find them, and I still get confused when I try to find my sponsor levels. One part of the unlock system that I do like is that the equipment and weapons that you use in the game are only unlockable by playing the game itself. You can't spend a bunch of money and buy guns and gadgets, you actually have to play for them like the good old days. One of the other problems with the Finals is that all of the new content was drip-fed. The game launched with a limited number of maps and gear options, and the seasonal content didn't hit fast or hard enough to keep the hype alive. When you have a game like this, you really need to have all your content ready to go on day one. Essentially, you're developing the game, finishing the game, but you're also developing the first 3 to 6 months of content to drop. It also doesn't help that this game was released right before Embark's Christmas break. Embark had such a good fire going with this game, and they just absolutely failed to stoke it. Last but not least, let's not forget about the skill gap. If you're a casual FPS player jumping into the Finals because it looked cool on TikTok, well, congratulations, you were probably getting steamrolled. And that's because the Finals is somewhat deceptively sweaty. It looks chaotic and casual friendly on the surface, but under the hood, it's actually fairly punishing, tactical, and demanding. It's almost trying to be both casual and competitive in different ways. I would call it a game that's casually competitive. And without a mode to ease players in, a lot of them just said, nah, and bounced. Because let's face it, most players aren't going to stick around to learn a game that's new, that's hard, when they can just go back to the same easy stuff or the games they're already used to and skilled in. So now you've got a game that's mechanically incredible with amazing skill expression, but top-heavy. The hardcore players stick around, but the casual audience tends to log off. And once the casual audience starts showing up, the streamers stop showing up, and once they stop showing up, the clips dry up. And once the clips dry up, the momentum sort of just dies. It's not that the Finals or Embark did anything catastrophically wrong. It's really that it didn't do enough right fast enough. It didn't adapt fast enough, it didn't educate new players fast enough, and it didn't capitalize on the hype wave fast enough. And by the time that it started to make real improvements, like now, the spotlight has already moved on. So let's say that you haven't touched the finals in a while. Maybe you dropped off after the launch hype. Maybe the meta started frustrating you. Maybe you just forgot it existed because, you know, life and 1,000 other games dropping every 5 minutes. I get it, but here's the thing. If you boot it up today, it still bangs. Like, it really bangs. It's such a good game. Mechanically, the finals is still one of the best feeling shooters on the market. The gunplay is tight, the movement is buttery smooth, the destruction is second to none. It's like if Battlefield 4, Overwatch, and Mirror's Edge had a beautiful chaotic baby and then handed it a rocket launcher and told it to go nuts. Season 6 has refined so much, and this game has never been in a better place than it is today. The devs at Embark have been quietly doing the work. They've been patching the meta, nerfing cheese strats, and buffing underused tools to sort of breathe new life into playstyles that were basically MIA. But even beyond balance, they've been adding a lot of cool stuff. New cosmetics, new maps, new guns. They added a minigun, which is amazing. And while it hasn't been enough to recapture all the launch day buzz, it shows something important and shows that they're still trying, which honestly is very rare. So many games tend to bail at the first sign of downward trend, and Embark didn't. What makes the game special hasn't gone anywhere. The finals is still a shooter that makes you feel clever. It rewards creativity more than just raw aim. And if you find a weird way to flank a player, blast a hole in the wall, bounce pad over the roof, that's the kind of play that wins rounds and makes your squad scream in the Discord chat. It's a game that gives you the tools and says, go have some fun. And most importantly, it seems to actually create stories. The one match where your entire team died and you somehow managed to grab the cash out station with seconds to spare, or that moment where all 3 teams collided in one insane last-minute brawl and no one knew what the hell was happening. The finals is built around these moments. And even now, even after the hype has died down, it delivers them. The problem isn't the game, the problem is the visibility of the game. When the finals dropped, it was everywhere. But now it seems to be the forgotten genius in the corner of the cafeteria. And like I said, it's honestly never been in a better state than it is right now, but no one seems to know about that. So here's the question. Is it too late? Or is this game gonna die? Well, I don't think so. We've definitely seen games back bounce from worse. No Man's Sky, Warframe, Rainbow Six Siege was a joke at launch, and now they are all top tier games. All it takes is one moment, one trailer, one update, one event that goes viral, and then the momentum can shift. And the finals, it has everything it needs in the game itself. The skill ceiling is high, the chaos is fun, the content's getting better, and it still feels unlike anything else in the market. All it needs is just one spark. But what I do know is this. The finals deserves a second chance. Because the game, it's ridiculously chaotic, stylish, brilliant. It still has so much to give. Because here's the truth. The finals isn't dead and it's not even close. But it does need players and it needs attention. It needs players that still can be more than just skill streaks and skins. So if you're tired of the same old thing, maybe it's time to try the finals again. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, drop a like, and share it with someone who needs a reason to reinstall the finals.
Hehehehe